Well, hello, 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 hello. It is, well, right now it is not Monday night. It is not 10 o'clock. But this is the NX 7062 podcast with your host, Stephanie K. Hi. I'm sorry I can't be with you tonight. I can't even be in the live chats at the moment because chances are I am driving home. I spent the weekend dog sitting for my cousin the second time around. Bentley is a gorgeous black poodle, and he's such a sweetie pie. And they asked me to come and do this, and the way the scheduling worked out and me getting back home, I am probably right now on the road home because I have to get up early in the morning. So I didn't want to have to get up early and drive. I picked leave when they land and go home. So here we are. I am going to be sharing my Connor Trinneer 2019 interview with you momentarily. It's what won the Twitter poll. I have no problem sharing it with you. It's an hour long. So the pictures, just so I could finish it, I have to admit I kind of got a little lazy putting up pictures. But I figured you guys would like to look at some pictures, but more so you want to listen to what Connor had to say. Some of it's going to sound very familiar because it's always been his opinion and his look at his acting and look at the craft of acting. We had an amazing conversation a little bit later in the show about the craft. But of course, we talked about enterprise. There were fan questions back when I was doing an audio podcast. I still had a live chat as well. So there was a little technical hiccup in the beginning. Um, there was a button that I forgot to unmute him, so the first funny little thing got missed. But all in all, I think you guys are gonna like it. It's great. I thank Connor for agreeing to do it. And what you'll hear is that it was the Wednesday podcast because back when we were all stuck at home with COVID, I was actually podcasting 2 nights a week. I was doing Mondays and an extra Wednesday show, just to kind of hang out with whoever was around because we all kind of needed each other. We needed a little bit of extra time, a little bit extra boost to enjoy each other's company and to kind of keep each other sane. So there's a little bit of talk about that. We talk about the beard, which we all know how I feel about Conor beard. But anyway, I just think it's going to be really, really interesting. I mean, it was 2019. It was April, I think, of 2019. So the show itself is almost 4 years old, and it was great to talk to him, hear his insights, and you'll see that some things have changed since he started doing the Shuttle Pod show. Some things have definitely changed for him, but all in all, fantastic interview. So I really hope you enjoy me digging into my archives and bringing that to you. Before we get into that, two things. I know a couple weeks ago I had talked about respecting actors and their privacy on Facebook. But the other thing that I think people are missing, and I had a conversation with somebody the other day about this, just in general, actors are human beings. Obviously, they're human and they deserve respect and they do not deserve to be objectified. And that goes for men and women. Men can get objectified just like women can. And I have a very low tolerance for objectification. I know myself, I've been objectified. I've had things said to me publicly, I've had things said to me online. And again, I'm reiterating this because I want this show to be respectful of everybody. I want anybody that I have on the show as a guest to feel comfortable to be here, to know that the conversations are going to be comfortable and that they're going to be respect. Again, that word, but I feel like I need to drive the point home that I need to know that these conversations are going to be respectful and that you're going to treat every person that comes across my screen or anybody's screen with proper decency. I mean, I feel like I can't believe I have to ask this, but then again, you know what? In the age of cyberbullying and internet access and people, who I used to back in the old days, I used to call them cowards because when you're hiding behind a screen, it's a lot easier to say mean, nasty, or again, objectifying things if you're hiding behind a computer screen and not looking somebody in the eye. I used to say that a lot to the trolls that I used to have to deal with in Yahoo. So please just remember here and everywhere else in any universe, whether it be Star Trek or anywhere else, when you're speaking online and you're speaking to whomever else that you're speaking to, whether it be an actor, whether it be another human being, every single human being deserves respect and they deserve not to be sexualized, objectified in any way. Anyway, that is my PSA for tonight. I have an unboxing. believe it or not. This was the last thing on my Amazon wish list. I think I know who sent it. But we're gonna find it. This is the box. I know I cheated. I cut it right before I sat down at the computer. Basically because I didn't know where the razor blade was and I didn't want to mess with the scissors. But let's see. Yes, it is. It is from Domestic. Oh, forget. You can't get it too close. Thank you, Domestic. And yes, I know it's backwards. The other thing I want to say is I'm actually on another platform. I'm not using StreamYard, so we're going to see how all this goes tomorrow. So I would love some feedback, but for me, nothing's wobbly behind me, so I'm happy about that. Let's see. So thank you very much, Domestic. I was just like, I was always raised, to look at all the cards and stuff first. So thank you, Domestic, taking it out of the box. Forgot unboxing means you get to see me do this. Sorry, the background's covering it. It is a camcorder. Yay! It's the last thing I needed, Domestic. Thank you so much. I'd love to think that one of these days you're going to benefit from it, but you always seem to go to Star Trek Las Vegas. So I don't know, but maybe one day if you can't make it and I can. Oh, it is beautiful. It's even got a little remote control. Hi, Bentley. Sorry, the dog just decided to because I'm at the kitchen table. So, of course, the dog's all, ooh, what's going on here? It's got its own little case. More sort of unboxing-ness. Hi, B. Isn't it pretty? So professional. Oh, my God. Is this lemon? Okay, cool. The lens cap is attached. Otherwise, I'd be losing it. Domestic, your generosity. I can't thank you enough. This is going to come in so handy for my interviews. Samsung, I had purchased a Samsung. I purchased a microphone, like an external microphone for my phone, my Samsung phone, and it worked perfect. And then I turned around and I upgraded the Samsung phone. I got a new phone, and it turns out that external mics are not really compatible. I mean, they just don't work very well with the newer Samsungs. I kid you not. I was so disappointed. I was pissed, actually. In fact, when I recorded with Nicole DeBoer when I was out in Vegas this was 2019. Yeah, was it 2019 or 2020? No, maybe it was it was 2020. Sorry, it was 2020. When I recorded with Nicole, thank God, it looked like the mic was working, but then it wasn't. But at least the built-in mic on the phone picked up our conversation. Otherwise, I would have been really pissed. So learned my lesson. That's going to be amazing. Put it on a tripod. It's an actual camera. I can hook up mics. I can hook up everything. I think it even has a mute feature, so it's going to be great if I want to, but it's going to come on the road with me. So I am really, really, really excited about that. Thank you again, Domestic. Before I go and turn everything over to my old video with Connor, old interview with Connor, new video footage, new video setup, I guess you can call it. Of course, gotta say, Shuttlepod show with Denise Crosby was fantastic as always. You get to see Mark make a slip. He sort of forgot. He forgot the name of the Doras sisters, which I thought was kind of funny. Honestly, when he kept saying it took me a minute, and of course somebody yelled it in the chat. He actually yelled it in the chat because he was mad at himself for forgetting. But that's great. No, Mark, there's actually some things that you've forgotten. But you know what? With all the Star Trek knowledge you have, it's okay every now and then if something kind of falls off. It's all right. We forgive you. It was an absolutely fantastic show as usual. So if you haven't watched it yet, please go watch it. No spoilers for me. And listen, guys, enjoy the Connor Trinneer interview. Like I said, there are some amazing insights, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. And hopefully, I will see you all next week. Until then, as always, live long.
Hi, this is Dominic Keating. I played Lieutenant Malcolm Reed on Enterprise, as you probably know, and you are listening to the NX 7062 podcast. Enjoy.
That's right. It is time for the Wednesday edition of the NX 7062 podcast here. Hope everyone is doing okay, dealing with the isolation. Still crossing our fingers that it's going to be over maybe by the end of this month. Fingers very, very crossed. And you know what? I am so excited to have my guest on with me tonight, and we had some technical difficulties getting him set up with Skype, but he is here. No more delays, no more further ado-s. I am your host, Stephanie K, and I am being joined tonight by Connor Trinneer. Hi, Connor. The first big question of the evening, this one's for me. Beer. I hate to do this to you, Connor, but they couldn't hear you. I had to unclick a button.
Oh.
So, can you answer the beard question again?
Sure.
Sorry. Thank you.
So, beard or no beard? Well, that kind of depends on the day. I'll kind of go a couple days in, and then I'll look at myself and say, you know what? Shave that sucker. So, it'll give me something to do. And so, tomorrow is a magnificent day of shaving my beard.
Well, that, like you said, that gives you something to do, which is
oh God, thing. Yeah.
Before we go any further, there's something that I have been meaning to tell you, basically, and we were talking before the show started, kind of reminiscing. I met you and Dominic and Nicole DeBoer back in 2016 at the 50th anniversary in Cherry Hill, and I had so much fun. You guys were amazing. We had a killer time at karaoke. And I hadn't been to a Star Trek convention, and I don't even want to tell you how long, because it had been at least the 90s since I'd actually stepped foot in a Star Trek convention before 2016. And I had so much fun with you guys. I really feel like you guys are the reason that I got back into going to conventions. And had that not happened, I literally would not be sitting here with you right now. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, seriously.
You know, I really enjoy them, and I think that's clear to the people that have met me at conventions. And you know, part of the reason is, you know, one, a Star Trek convention is not only just a celebration of all things Star Trek; it's a celebration of the people. More to the point, the people that are fans of Star Trek, and I feel so fortunate that I've been able to go to these and spend time with people and meet people and drink with them and hang out with them and do karaoke. And you know, as far as I'm concerned, I am I'm the party favor.
I like that.
I really believe that. You know, everything else is like, you've got these people who've come to these conventions who have, it's their vacation for the year, for the period of time that they're, you know, they can afford it. And it's not cheap. And so, you know, put on your top hat, have a drink, and have fun, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, and you know this because we've been doing this since 2016, but karaoke with you guys is always the highlight of my convention.
Well, it's a skill set I didn't know I had.
You are a fantastic karaoke host. You really are. And we've sung on the cruise together, and then in Vegas a few times. So yeah, you and Dominic really do a very nice job with karaoke. It's
a great deal of fun.
It is, and I know, you know, it gives the crowd like that chance in the spotlight with you, which I'm sure they really appreciate. I know I do.
Well, it's also just like the time to share, you know, fun with one another. I mean, you know, I happen to be the host, but it's I like to bring it down to a level of like, you know what, we're all just hanging out. Let's just enjoy our time together.
Some Tanqueray and tonics and some songs. I mean, what more could you ask for, right?
Maybe a chicken wing or two.
Absolutely. I'm always about the chicken wings. What are your favorite kind? I just like garlic. I like garlic parmesan.
Well, I can't do spice because I'm Irish.
Oh, there you go.
I do, you know, just, you know, naked garlic, all that. But the spicy ones I have to avoid.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not big on spicy either, so like good garlic parmesan, some blue cheese, and I'm a happy camper.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Has anybody ever told you, and this is something I've just, because you're always so busy, you know, you've got a ton of fans at STLV, I'll say hi to you in passing or whatever, but I really try not to monopolize you. And there's always at the end, you'll have left. I'll be like, damn it, I forgot to ask him this question. And the one thing I've been wondering, has anybody ever said to you that they feel like Trip is the reason that the Prime Directive was invented?
Oh, well, you're going to have to help me out here. What do you mean?
Okay. The Prime Directive is what was in Star Trek The Next... it started in TOS. The Prime Directive is where... the directive of non-interference, where, boldly going out and observing other cultures, but don't interfere with them.
Do you think it was designed because Trip couldn't help but do that?
Yes, because there was a line, and I honestly don't remember which episode, but there was a line where Archer actually said, well, after one of Trip's big mistakes, he said something about, well, maybe someday Starfleet will invent a Prime Directive of some sort where, we'll know better what to do.
That might have been Cogenitor, where I got involved in. I've never thought of that.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think that, in terms of characters on Star Trek, I think one of the great things about Star Trek is, I'll speak only from my show and my character.
Sure.
I think one of the great things about Trip was his fallibility.
Absolutely.
And his continuing understanding of his responsibility within the arena that he was operating in. So I can only say that, it was a continual evolution of what that meant. And maybe I can't really think that they had the foresight to think that my character in particular was going to be representative of that.
I guess I just feel like between the Cogenitor and then, 5 episodes in, you got pregnant.
Yeah, I think that also it had a little bit to do with just me. Just who they cast in this part.
Okay.
And because I was told pretty early on that the writers had an ear for the way I talked. And I think that they might have, sort of used me in that fashion, but I can't say for certain. I do know that I was the one, on my show at least, who put his foot in his mouth. And there was a point where I had said to the producers, look, there's got to come a point where him putting his foot in his mouth has a consequence. And I could be wrong about this, but I believe that Cogenitor showed up soon after.
Right. And that was a really powerful episode.
Yeah, and it was a time when, he had to address his actions. Mm-hmm. The thing about Trip that I think is kind of, I guess, timely in a sense too, is that Trip he's a quintessential just American.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, going out there and just sort of saying, here's what I think, and here's what I think, and here's what I think. And then every now and then something occurs and you can't keep saying, here's what I think. Because ultimately what happens is then, a consequence occurs and you have to go, well, here's what I think, but I have to address what I think and then adjust what I think.
Right. You have to learn. You have
to learn.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. And honestly, Enterprise is my favorite out of all of the series because of the rawness. And I've said this a lot. It's because of the rawness of the series. I loved the fact that it wasn't polished and perfect the way all the other series were. They were like, you know, from the get with TOS, it's like, we know what we're doing. We're out here exploring. Here's our set of rules, and here's what we're doing. But Enterprise, everybody was so fallible, and the speech that Archer made about, you know, we make mistakes and that's how we learn. And I always just really appreciated that. I loved the relationship that the humans had with the Vulcans that picked up after the movie First Contact, where you got to see that I mean, Trip and T'Pol just butted heads in the very beginning, but you got to kind of see their relationship evolve into what eventually became that solid relationship that the humans had with the Vulcans. And I just like the evolution.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's funny, like, so having not been a real fan, I knew the original series. When I got the job, you know, I had no knowledge about any of the history. And so I was only operating on the entire time about, so how do you create a relationship with the person you're talking to with the words you're given to speak? And how do you make that real? And so that's how I operated. So there was nothing else besides that for me.
Right.
There might have been other people who knew more about what was going on, but I didn't. I was kind of, you know, a babe in the woods in a way.
Sure, but then again, I mean, you had the writers knew the history. The writers knew what they wanted to say, so it was just a matter of you guys bringing all of that to life, and you all did it so well. So
thank you.
You're welcome. So regardless of whether, you know, you knew the history of Star Trek or not,
we were being guided by a ship that knew where it was going.
Exactly, and I think, like I said, I think it's one of my favorites because of the way it was written, because of that rawness and that newness that you don't see in the other 4 series.
Interesting. Yeah.
So that's my take on Enterprise anyway.
You have to always remember, though. 9/11.
Yes.
Dictated our series. Our series was not meant to be, I believe, what it became, because 9/11 occurred, and 9/11 made our series a reaction to that event.
This whole Xindi arc was...
my character, the arcs, all of it. All of it. It changed the narrative.
Right.
And to watch the show without knowing that, I think that you're missing something.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I know I was actually studying up, so I did read, you know, some interviews and some things that you've done recently. But before we get into that, actually, the other thing I wanted to ask, you know, while we're all in lockdown, hanging out in our prospective lives, how, as an actor, are you still able to audition? Are there projects that are still, you know, with video auditions or anything, or is it completely shut down?
All shut down.
All shut down. So no new projects. Nobody's
nothing.
Wow. Okay.
Nothing. There's nothing happening.
Yeah, I was just curious if you know, because I mean, a lot of people are becoming very creative, just, you know, with nothing else to do but sit. You know, so I was just wondering if anything's coming along. So you're like everybody else. You're just holding your breath.
Holding your breath and wondering, you know, because like many other businesses, ours in particular requires close contact.
Obviously.
You know, not only with your scene partners, but with makeup, with everybody. And no, it's all been shut down kind of as of my birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
You know, thanks.
Yeah, exactly. What was it that Nikki DeBoer said to you on Twitter? Have a quarantini? I thought that was pretty cute.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've had a few.
Yeah, exactly. Got to get through. Well, as we were discussing earlier, alcohol is definitely an essential in times of crisis.
Yeah. It's an essential need.
It is. Speaking of what I was reading up on, something and what we're talking about now, something that you said in an article in regards to The Purge, really struck me as almost prophetic, where you had said, because talking about The Purge and that sort of very scary look at America's future, and you said something along the lines of normalizing their realities into something that we think of as the worst of the worst.
Mm-hmm.
And I read that and I went, that's kind of where we are right now. We're trying to normalize our reality around something that's definitely not normal.
Well, we're being required to.
Exactly.
That's the difference. To ask someone to do that is one thing. To require them is a whole other thing.
It adds another layer of stress, I think.
Well, it changes your reality. Mm-hmm. Because you want to talk about a reality of somebody like asking something of you, which you then have an opportunity to say yes or no about. That's one thing. To require something of someone then puts you in a whole nother category of how then do you operate within that system of requirement? Now, asking someone is a plea. A requirement or a mandate says, yeah, now you have to find your own reality, your own truth, your own way of going forward. And that's the difference.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It was just such a very, when I was reading what you had said, it just really caught my eye as something that's kind of paralleling what we're going through as far as what our reality has become. I
would think, I mean, in a way, you could make The Purge this.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of the stratas of how, your variety of people, management, civil servant, low level, deep level criminal operate. It changes the dynamic and the narrative 100%.
Absolutely. And I haven't finished watching The Purge, and now I went to watch some more of it today, and I couldn't find it. I don't know if USA took it off of their on-demand system, but I was really enjoying it. I love the fact that the show takes a deeper look into the aftermath, because when the movies end, the movies basically are based around that 12 hours of kill or be killed.
Right.
And then they're over.
And this is 1 year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and how do you then live within the parameters? That's what I found fascinating about, I felt sort of fortunate that I was involved in that season, because it was, how do you live in it?
Yeah.
How do you succeed, or how do you progress in it? And do you or don't you?
And how you change, because the narrative of how the new founding fathers were sitting there saying, oh no, this is good, because if we give people this 12 hours, then it's going to reduce crime for the rest of the year. And then you have that one college student that didn't even want to participate, and then he did, and then it affected him to the point where now he's turning into a serial killer.
Yeah.
And it's just like, no, that, you're being fed one thing from your government, but it's a lie.
And then systemically, you've got the government operating on a very clear rule system, mm-hmm. which was, you get these 12 hours. Outside of those 12 hours, even by a second,
yes,
the draconian levels of punishment are severe.
Yeah. I hope it comes back so that I can finish watching it. I hope I didn't spoil it for anybody out there that hasn't watched it yet. It's horror, and it's the horror. I love my Freddy's and my Jasons, and I'll sit down and watch a Friday the 13th marathon. But what curls my toes and makes my skin crawl is always the more realistic real people doing things to other people. So,
oh yeah,
from that standpoint, I just, it's well done. So I'm hoping that it comes back. I do have some questions from my chat audience for you. Michelle would like to know if it surprises you that Enterprise has now become very much appreciated and loved today.
No, it doesn't at all. I'm very proud of that series. I'm very proud of what we did. I'm very proud of the stories we told. I'm very proud of the stories and the way in which we told them and the time in which we told them. I think that we were under the thumb of, here comes another series. It had been on for, 19 years at that point. And not at all. I think that Netflix having it on and whatever platform it's on in Europe reintroduced people to, look, I love Star Trek fans, but come on, you didn't like the song? Who cares? I mean, you want to nitpick about things, fine. But you want to nitpick it to the point where, I don't know, we get canceled? Well, I mean, there you go. I think that our show, when it comes down historically to its value, will be right up there with any of them. Or better than, in my opinion, a few of them.
I'm probably going to agree with you on that one. I am a little biased, but I definitely agree. And you know how I feel about your theme song, so I don't like to hear anybody bash on that one.
Yeah, I mean, who cares?
Well, that's true.
You like it, you don't like it.
But it just, I remember, you know what? And it's funny because I remember the first year when we were in Vegas, and I remember going up to you and asking you if you thought it was okay to sing the theme song because I knew how much people don't like it. And I was really honestly worried. I was like, people going to boo me off the stage if I go sing it?
You got to remember, too, in the first couple of years, it wasn't even called Star Trek Enterprise. It was just called Enterprise, and that was a legal issue. They were in some way, for some reason, I don't know why, trying to separate from, and I'm sure there's money involved here, the name Star Trek. So Enterprise just being a thing unto itself. And we were also on a network that throughout the country, UPN carried usually most of your local professional sports events. So if there was a baseball game, we got bumped. If there was a basketball game in Indiana, we got bumped. So you couldn't watch it. You didn't know when it was on.
Yeah,
so I think that people being able to binge watch the show and follow its narrative. I get this all the time on Twitter how much people love the show, and to an extent I've never really cared, but I hear it more and more now about how people were like, I didn't think I was going to like it, but I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, of course, it's good. It's good television.
It is good television. Robert just wanted to let you know that he enjoyed the series very much. Felt they pulled the plug too soon, which I think we can all agree. And he also said they rushed the finale. Finale is something I really wasn't going to bring up tonight because we all know you guys really got gypped on your finale.
Name a finale that was good.
that was
name two. Yep, name two finales that were good.
MASH.
Ever.
MASH.
1979?
No, it was 81.
Okay, so a long time ago.
Yep.
Name finales that are any good. Finales are not good, especially, and MASH had, I don't know, what 11 years or something? 14, something.
11.
I mean, we got the plug pulled with 5 episodes to go. And they had a very difficult job to invest the show into the web of the chronology that was very important of the series as a whole. So, they had to, whatever. They had to really split hairs into how they were going to infuse our show with, the idea being there was going to be 3 more years left into the canon of the story itself.
Right.
So that's a difficult proposition. I don't wish writing a finale on anyone.
I can imagine it's tough. Okay, let's see. What other questions do we have? Janine asked earlier from Twitter. She's in Germany, so she's asleep right now, but she did give me some questions. She would like to know if you would go to Germany again for a Star Trek convention, because she is a big fan of yours and would love to meet you one day.
Oh, come on. I know Janine. I've met her. Yes, of course. I would love to come back to Germany. I've been to Germany several times for FedCon and other conventions. Yeah, bring it on. I'll be there in a heartbeat. I love Germany.
Me too. I
love Germany.
Germany's beautiful. I was actually born there.
You were? Where?
Yeah, Stuttgart.
Stuttgart.
My father was in the army, so.
Oh, yeah. No, I love Germany. I've been to, many of the big cities there. I'm a big fan.
I would love to go back, and we're going to talk more about Germany in a few minutes, because that's where you were to film Ben Frankly.
That's right.
But Janine also wanted to know, when you're not making films, do you do theater? I haven't done it in the last several years, but yes, I cut my teeth in the theater. It's what I'm trained in. I've done a lot of theater, a lot of Shakespeare, a lot of classical pieces, and I'm kind of chomping at the bit to get back on stage. It's where I think I'm best at. On stage. I'm a better theater actor than I am a film actor. Oh, okay. And you're a great film actor. I did actually like. I did finally see American Made. I did see American Made, and I did like your George Bush, by the way. I thought you were great as George Bush. That was sat through the entire movie. I am not a big Tom Cruise fan, but I did.
Well, having worked with him, I am now. He was such a dream. He was such a great guy to work with.
Right.
He's an artist. I mean, I don't give a shit what you think about his religious beliefs.
Sure.
I don't care what anybody thinks about anybody's politics. If you like what they do, and I again walked into this project having no idea what to expect, and he's what, I don't know, one of the top 3 major stars in the world. He was such a giving partner, and just hung out in the green room chatting with people, and just a good guy, and someone whose main impetus is to tell a good story.
And that was a good story. And the fact that it happened during our lifetime, I mean, for me, that was big. I don't know if I've ever been to a, based on a true story that I'm like, wait, I remember parts of this.
Yeah, right.
Like, I remember Iran-Contra, I remember Ali Noor, and it was just, for me, that was a big deal. I'm like, oh, first of all, it made me feel old, but secondly,
Yeah.
I thought, but I thought that was really interesting that it was covering things
I thought
did
they
not-
nailed it. They nailed it.
Yeah, I thought that it was great, and like I said, I love that they kind of just threw you in as like this little aside with George Bush. But you know what, you did a great job. You had the mannerisms down, you had the voice down.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been told for years that I should do George Bush, and I never wanted to, but I got a chance, and
There you go.
I did. Yeah.
Well, and actually, Michelle would like to know. She says that James Doohan got flack for his Scottish accent. Speaking of accents, she wants to know whether you got flack for yours when you did Trip. Your Southern accent.
No, I didn't. No, in fact, people from that area in Florida came to visit the set and thanked me for doing it so well.
There you go.
I have I mean, not to pat myself on the back, but I do have a good ear for accents. I know how to do them, and I'm comfortable doing them.
And you know what? And that's all it takes. As long as you're comfortable, then it sounds natural and not forced.
Right.
So,
Right.
Yeah, and that's what's important. Yeah, we've had this conversation before too about accents, because the one accent that I was always disappointed in, and it's very, I think it surprises people. I love Robin Williams, but his Boston accent was terrible in Good.
Oh yeah,
Hunting.
it's difficult.
It is.
The New England accent is difficult.
But you would just figure if anybody could have pulled it off, it would have been Robin Williams.
Well, who's to say? You know, I mean,
I know.
You know, who's to say? It's one of those things where it's funny. I was talking to Dominic, and we were talking. It was a while ago. We were talking about Game of Thrones, and he said that he's like, I can't watch it because all I hear are all of these British actors doing their various regionalisms, and in England, those are really specific and really close together.
Right.
And he was like, I couldn't get into it because nobody seemed to be of the same place. You know, so you know, I get that, and you know, when I watch certain actors, it's a difficult thing. Either you can do it or you don't. And I will say this: it takes work. It takes work. When I did this movie in Maine, it's funny because I did my research and tried to localize, you know, this, because Maine's accent is even harder than you know, straight New England. Yeah. And because the guy who was our director of photography had grown up on the island we were shooting in, and the very first day, I walked up to him and I said, Ed, here's the deal. I want you to tell me any second that I'm not doing it real. And I did my first scene, and he was like, yeah, you got it, man. You're all right. And so that gave me a lot of confidence, you know, so I was able to kind of free myself into just speaking. And it's a hard thing. It's a very fine line between, you know, the believability of your character, your accent, and I take a lot of pride in doing those.
No, and like I said, I think you've nailed it every time that I've heard you. I've never been disappointed because I have an ear. Like the only one I can do even remotely well is a Massachusetts Boston accent, because I've been around New Englanders since I was born. So you know, I think that helps if you've been exposed to it your entire life.
Well, I had to lobby to call the captain.
Oh, and I always love that. That's like
I said I don't think he'd call him captain. I think he'd call him captain. Because I think from where he's from, that's what he'd say, and they ultimately agreed with me.
But changing a word, it's tough on a Star Trek set.
Oh God, yeah. I know.
Yeah, but you won, and it's nice to know that they listen, because I mean, and Dominic had said that they let him like throw in the Britishisms because he had a little more, which surprised me when he said that when we were in Vegas, because it surprised me that they let him. But I guess if anybody knows a Britishism, it would be an English actor, so you probably should let him make those decisions.
Right.
So. Let's see. Chris wants to know, it's a non-Star Trek question, but which series of Stargate did you enjoy working on better, Atlantis or Origins?
Second to Trip, playing Michael, is the greatest other character I've ever done on Stargate Atlantis. So easily, it's Atlantis.
There you go. I honestly never watched any of the Stargates. I saw the original movie, and that was it for me. It looks like it's
so. In Stargate Origins, I play an old man.
Yeah.
Which had its own challenges, and I also had to learn ancient Egyptian.
Oh my gosh.
Which was awful. Because I spoke a lot of it.
Oh,
but
wow.
I mean, I looked like Teddy Roosevelt in it.
Yeah, you did. You absolutely did.
But I was proud of that too. I mean, the project itself didn't have enough money attached to it. I don't think they knew what they were really looking for. They were trying to sort of test the waters as to whether or not it was going to, they were going to use it to launch MGM's television platform, and they didn't give it enough money. But having said that, a lot of times when you're working under the gun in independent film, you get this kind of, there's a set common denominator for any group, and it's either set low or set high. And I would like to think that I know for a fact that with that project, nobody had a room. We were all getting dressed together and hanging out in this sort of actor cattle pit. But everybody was really committed to, and they were asking us to, we had to learn ancient Egyptian. We were, not getting paid anything, but I was really proud of how, and I was by far and away the most experienced one in that group. And I was really proud of how everybody came together to make this project. And the only thing I think that we two things I think that we didn't have on our side was money and experience.
Okay. You know what? That sort of kind of leads me into the main part of the other reasons you're here besides Star Trek, because we talking about independent film versus major money studio stuff, and you've done both, and you've kind of done. I think you've done a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And do you have a preference? I mean, what draws you to like the short film projects and the indie film projects as opposed to, a bigger blockbuster kind of project?
Well, honestly, it comes down to firstly, is it interesting to me? Is there something that I think that I can learn or give to this that I want out of my process? That's the first thing. The second thing is, can I pay my bills while doing that? Those are the two things I think of. And sometimes one or the other takes precedent. Sometimes, the money's better than the artistic yahs I get. And sometimes, most often, the artistic experience is more interesting to me than the money I'm getting paid. That's usually the case.
And let's get specific and start talking about Ben Franklin, because the reason, again, this really goes back to us meeting back in 2016. Had we not met, blah blah blah, wouldn't be doing this podcast. Would not have actually, found out about Ben Franklin and started talking about it, which caught Tony's attention, which got Tony and I talking. And which kind of led me to Ben Franklin. She actually sent it to me. I actually did get to see it because I know that it's still being shopped around on the festival circuit, which means it's not for public view yet.
Right.
But I did get to see it, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. And back to something that you and I had discussed in LA about before I had seen it, I said a short story, 8 minutes, and you had said something along the lines of, well, sometimes it doesn't take more than 15 minutes to tell a story.
Well, most short films shouldn't be longer than 22 minutes, generally speaking. In fact, there's a limit to it in terms of what you call a short film. Mm-hmm. But sometimes the story doesn't. Sometimes the story is just the story, and if you're paying attention to it, you just let it be.
Yeah, and 8 minutes was all you needed. And actually, the script was written by a friend of yours, Seth Kramer?
Yeah, so I met Seth over 30 years ago. We'd both been accepted into the National Theater Institute in Connecticut. And it was a semester-long program. And at the time, Seth was still an actor, but he was really kind of gearing himself to be a playwright. And he moved to New York, and I was in New York, and he's a dear friend of mine to this day. And he'd always been a big Star Trek fan. And Seth is a multi-produced, multi-published playwright. And he'd written this short play called, at the time, History with a Dash of Hollywood. And he asked me to be a part of the production, which we did in the basement of some church in the Lower East Side or something. And that was that. And the play got published by Little Brown or Playwrights Horizons or somebody anyway. So years go by, and I'm asked to do a convention in Denver. This is probably 12 years ago, maybe longer. And they asked me if I would do something, for the fans on stage, and did I have anything? And in the back of my mind, I was like, because there's a certain line at the end of it, which sort of wraps it up into an association with the Star Trek universe. And I said, yeah, hang on a second. So I called Seth up and I said, hey man, can I use this for a stage reading? And he was like, yeah, of course. So Bob Picardo is also at the convention. And I asked Bob, I said, hey Bob, would you mind if you and I did this stage reading of this play from a friend of mine? We do it, and then somebody had taped it and put it on YouTube. And I'd forgotten about it. And then Antonia arrives in my life, and I meet her in Berlin, and we go have coffee, and that's a whole other long story. She's a lovely woman. And then I think shortly thereafter, she contacts me, and she's working for a media company who has earmarked at the end of their year a certain amount of money to do a project. And she, having seen History with a Dash of Hollywood asked me if I'd be willing to do it, and would Bob do it? And I said, if we can make this all work out for everybody, sure. Yeah, let me talk to Bob, and then we got a hold of Seth, and we all worked together to bring this thing to fruition. And Bob and I flew to Cologne, where Tony lives, and they put together this, a great crew, a great director, and we spent, I think it was just, might have been 2 or 3 days shooting this little piece that my buddy had written 20 some years ago. And that became Ben Franklin.
Now, because it was a 20-year-old script, you and Bob actually had to do some rewrites to kind of modernize it a little bit. Isn't that?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. But not, we had to, there was some quasi-political things that were part of the script that needed to be changed. But, the essence of the story was still there. And, but, we did have to change a couple of lines that were, whatever was happening politically in 90 something, we're different now. And,
right.
But those were only in the script. They were easy to change because they were merely a device to get to the actual point. Mm-hmm. And Seth was a part of the whole thing and signed off on it. And, at the end of the day, I'm actually quite proud of this little thing. It's fun.
It was, and that Star Trek line that was in there was great. It was just very, very well said. It worked.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That was the whole draw for its, assimilation into the, see, I brought that all the way back.
Look at that.
Full circle.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. But the assimilation to, the Star Trek world. And, I'm really quite proud that, for Seth, and for me and for Bob and for Tony, that this little bit of thing is on tape.
I actually just rewatched it again before we came on, because the one thing I found interesting was Seth. Besides the fact it was really amusing and it was definitely about storytelling in Hollywood, but was Seth also trying to make a point about how history can get lost, how facts can get lost in favor of a story?
100%. That's the point of the whole thing.
That was the point of the whole thing. Okay. It wasn't just about, it was about how to tell a story, but it was also about...
No, it's the point. It's the point of, what sells. Mm-hmm. Literally, what sells. And boy, don't we live in that world right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. That message probably more so now than when he wrote it.
At least as much.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And I know you fancy. Tony sent me a couple of little things, so I know you fancy. That's not how I want to put it. You consider yourself a storyteller. You feel like that's what acting is for you, is telling stories. So,
well, I think that's what acting is.
Okay. So.
Period. I think filmmaking, theater, it's to show and express the human condition. Look, we've done this since, caveman got around fires, which was to tell stories about how and why things were. And that's ultimately what we do. It's all we do. Mm-hmm. We're storytellers.
So when you look to do a part, the story, that's important to you regardless of whether it's an indie film, a short film, or a big budget. If the story speaks to you, then that's...
Well, it's certainly a bonus.
But you do need to put food on the table.
But you do need to put food on the table, exactly. You know, sometimes, and here's the deal. I think that my responsibility, in as much that it is that whatever I have to offer is not going to be with me with my mouth shut, just saying lines. It's going to be me trying to sort out what's the truth of what's going on and what I'm talking about. And, you know, sometimes that's all tied up with a bow and already set up, and there's not a lot of change you can make. And sometimes there's a great deal of change you can make and a great deal of clarity you can put into it. So, you know, it's all a movable feast in a way. You know, you do what you can to to express the story that you are required to tell.
Well, and you know, it's funny. I remember very distinctly seeing William Shatner for the first time, and somebody asked him if he had ever done anything that he regretted. And his response was, acting is a part-time job. You never know where you never know where your next check is coming from. So, no, he said, I've taken jobs that are given to me, and I do the best with them that I can do.
Yeah, be a storyteller and don't suck at it.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so he regrets nothing. He said, everything I've done to put my kids through school, put food on my table. So he has no regrets.
I would agree with that 1,000%. You know, but I would also add within that while you're there in the moment, you do the best that you can within the parameters that you're living in to clarify, to focus as best you can the story that you're telling. You know, look, he made a movie about tarantulas overtaking a town.
Yeah.
Well, I guarantee William Shatner, in making that film, made that better with conversations about what the hell was happening with him hanging around with a bunch of tarantulas.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, so all of this, whenever I look at the process of at least being an actor, is that behind what nobody else sees, and this is what we're all doing, in a sense, is throwing ingredients into a bowl and trying stuff out. We're trying to make the best cake in the world. And so we're stirring stuff up. And so, you know, we do it, and then a rehearsal comes, and in the rehearsal, what you do is you kind of put your finger in the batter and go like, oh, that's a little bit too salty. And then you manipulate that again, and you stir it up again the next chance you get, and you bring it back out, and you go, well, let's taste that one. Well, that's a little bit closer. You get maybe one more rehearsal or no more rehearsal, just some time with yourself, and you stir that thing up again, and then you taste it again, and then you go back into your brain and try to figure out, you know, what do I do here to tell the truth? And it's this truth batter, and then you put your finger in it, and it's always time based. And then with the amount of time you have, you put your finger in that batter and you taste it, and then from the time that you do that you go onto a set or onto a stage, you bake it. And then you come out and you show them what you made. And that's it. That's all you get.
And it's, well, I'll take your analogy a little further in my mind, because I've gotten to the point lately where I'll watch different movies or whatever, and that's a great analogy, but I also look at it as it's not a cake. It's more like cookies. And some cookies come out better than other cookies, because you can look at an individual performance within a movie and say, well, that guy was good. I didn't like the story. I didn't like what anybody else in the movie was doing, but I liked this guy. or like this
Well,
guy and this girl.
for the most part though, the reason I say that, and I get your analogy too, is that I have no control after I say, here's my cake. Because they can edit it, they can change it for any other reason. But I can say, in all honesty, hopefully, in any project that I'm involved in, I gave you my best cake.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, and you're only given what, as we said earlier when we're talking about Enterprise, you're given a script. You as the actor are telling the story that 9 times out of 10 is somebody else's, and they just want you to tell their story the best way that you can.
Making cake.
Exactly.
Just making cake.
Exactly. I love that. I absolutely love that. So what is coming? I mean, I know we're kind of all in this lockdown. I know, and like you said earlier, Hollywood's closed, unfortunately. Was there anything in the pipeline for you?
No. I had finished doing an episode of The Resident, which is a show on Fox. I did that like in mid-January.
Saw it.
And no, that was it. I had a couple things in the oven, but there was nothing that came of them, and that's the actor's life for me. No. By the time this happened, it was and I know from many of my friends that it's scary. Like Shatner said, we're the ultimate temp worker.
Right.
But look, I'm a pragmatist. I'm an optimist, and everything's going to be fine. We're all going to be fine. We do our work. We do our work here and now, and we'll come back. We'll be fine.
So, with all this time on your hands and being the storyteller you are, having retooled the script for Ben Frankly a little bit, do you see yourself maybe trying to write something?
I don't know. No. I have written things in the past, and I don't. That doesn't mean I won't do it again. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's. I think that my wheelhouse is telling a story. I think I'm good at that. So the short answer is no, I've not written anything. I've had some ideas I've spoken to people about stories, but not in terms of writing. No.
Okay. I hear you.
Yeah.
It's a tough process. I mean, I've written in my life poems and this and that, and it's just like I write for myself because I get scared to share. That's my whole big thing. I think it can be difficult.
I like to do things I think I'm good at.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
You know what I mean? Don't we all?
Yeah, exactly.
And especially in times like this in quarantine, you don't want to feel not good about what you're doing.
This is true too. What are you doing to pass the time in quarantine, if I can ask?
Well, I'm reading a lot, playing guitar, exercising, just doing the things that what it's funny is that it's almost like a nuclear grounding. It's like, when you're grounded, you don't do anything for a while, and then because you're grounded, you've got to figure something out, and then you go back to the things that kind of give you some satisfaction. So those are the things. Cooking, I like to cook. And it's just fucking bored. Let's be honest. It's awful. I mean, listen, I'm hopefully the people that are listening and you and everybody else are, doing what we're being asked to do. And I am, I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for the people that I love. And it blows. And I can't wait to be done with it. I can't wait to walk out and see friends. I'm not very good at being alone. I'm much more productive in a group. So this has been hard for me. But having said that, I'm healthy. Not to say that this couldn't happen to me. I'm not implying that whatsoever. I'm doing this for my parents. The idea for my parents, who are older and who I wouldn't wish for a second they got any, close to this at all. And so what I'm doing ultimately is making time.
Yep.
And doing the best I can at making time.
I look at it as the more we all cooperate and the more we all do this, the sooner it'll be over. Hopefully in time for us to all go to Las Vegas. That's kind of like, that's like the light at the end of my tunnel, is as long as creation doesn't cancel Star Trek Las Vegas or move it. Sort of what I'm looking forward to, I guess. It's good to have something to look forward to at the end.
I just want to hug my friends. That's it. You know what I mean?
Listen, I hear you. Hopefully, can I be on that list if we see each other in Vegas? Just
sure, of course. Yeah, I just want to, I just want to reintroduce myself to the great life I have. Yeah. And right now I'm not able to, and it's difficult, and we all are, and you are doing our best to mitigate the circumstances. And, it sucks. And I've got a 14-year-old boy, and I feel so bad for him. And, he's on spring break right now. And, he doesn't get this. He's 14. Like when you were 14, did you care? You don't understand this, whatever's going on, and I feel for him, like he's in 8th grade, and he's not going to be able to graduate to go to high school, which is, if you look back on your life, a significant thing.
Absolutely. He's
not able to have, they were meant to go to London for their 8th grade trip.
Oh my God!
Which they are being told about from 1st grade on. So I feel bad for myself, but I have,
yeah,
I feel bad for my boy.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, what's that saying? You're only happy. You're only as happy as your unhappiest child. Isn't that the saying? Or something along that line.
That's got to be like a Dostoevsky, like Russian literature thing.
Yeah, it's something like that. You're only as happy as your unhappiest child.
Yeah, and that's probably true. And he's great. He gets as much of this as he can. But he's a 14-year-old kid, and he's stuck between his mom's place and mine every other week, and I just I'm doing what I'm doing for the people that I love. That's what I get to, I guess.
No, and that's the moral of the story, I think, for everybody.
Yeah.
Is that this isn't just about you, whomever you are. This is about everybody that you love out there too.
Yeah.
And you have to, it's definitely something that you need to keep in mind when you're, I'll admit I'm luckier than most because I have a job that's considered essential. So I do get to go out more than most, as long as I'm incredibly careful.
Yeah.
So,
and also not without its anxiety and stresses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but like I said, and you know what? My exercise routine has improved because if I'm not at work, I'm here. So
Right.
I'm making sure to do that.
We're all going to come out looking hungover and fit as hell.
I think you might have nailed that one right there. Oh my God. I think that's just the perfect way to end this. Except I do have one more question for you from Robert. He wants to know if you've ever been invited to do Rhode Island Comic-Con.
Never heard of it. Love to go.
Well, see, Robert, all you got to do is get to the planning committee of Rhode Island Comic-Con and tell them they need more Trek people.
Yeah, get a hold of you and get a hold of me.
There you go.
Yep.
Well, that works. Well, Connor, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy, busy schedule to be here.
Yeah, hang on. What am I doing next? Oh, right. Nothing.
You don't have a cake to bake?
Oh, no, it's in the oven.
There you go. Thank you so much to Connor Trinneer. Thank you to everybody out there in podcast land. Thanks to everybody for your questions. Go check out when Ben Frankly is released. You know my social media is going to be lit up to tell you all where you can go see it. But like I said, right now they're still shopping it around the festivals, so not too soon. But it's definitely worth the 8 minutes to sit and watch. Absolutely.
He'll be around.
If you want to... Michelle says she hopes to see you in Texas. So I don't know if there's any...
Well, bring it on.
There you go.
I don't know anything about Texas. Sure.
But if you want to find me on the tweets and the Instas and all that, well, podcast isn't on Insta yet, but I am on Twitter at NX7062. I'm on Facebook at the NX7062 podcast. You can even do that old-fashioned email-y thing and send me an email to NX7062 at Comcast.net. I am your host, Stephanie K. Thanks again to my very special guest, Connor Trinneer. Until next time, everybody, live long and prosper.
This is Nicole DeBoer, and you've been listening to the NX7062 podcast.